Hi there, everyone. Welcome to our latest live video. Delighted to say I'm joined by Sally today to talk about taking your first steps into recruiting people within your business, which I'm sure for many people is both exciting and a scary time to do that. Having been through it myself fairly recently, so I know what it's like. So we're gonna go through all that in a second. As always with our live videos, if people have questions or any comments, please just put them in the box, and we'll try to cover them off. And yeah, so Sally, do you want to just quickly introduce yourself first, and then I've got a few questions that I'll fire your way.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Sally. My company is Limelight HR. I work predominantly with small creative businesses. So providing HR support and trying to make it positive, a bit fun, get involved, be part of the work family, and just make everything really accessible and try and help small businesses create great places to work so that everybody enjoys going into work.
That sounds like a nice thing to do, Sally.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's not what work. That's the thing we all aim to achieve to get to.
Yeah.
So let's start on people when they start employing. So, what are the biggest challenges do you find for kind of new employers?
I think it's probably two main things is being able to define what it is that you want from an employee and from a new team member. And the other thing is finding the time to do it properly. Because it's one thing making the decision, it's another thing entirely giving it the time that it needs and deserves. So in terms of deciding what you want from the person, I suppose quite often people have an idea in the head of what they want. And if they don't go through a process of really working out what exactly that looks like and what it's going to mean longer term, they just sort of throw something together and then you get people in for interviews and you tell them all about this great job. And then it turns out that the reality 3 6 months down the line isn't at all what you sold them. And then you're not getting what you want from them and they're just feeling really disengaged and not very excited because they're not getting to do all of the things that you said you were going to do. So it's basing it on real need, not just wouldn't it be exciting if we could do this. And time wise, I think it's just, people do give up a lot of their own time in terms of looking for jobs, going for interviews, finding ways to fit it around their current job, their families. So I think there's an amount of respect that you have to put in as somebody who's looking for a new team member, that you make the process as easy as possible and that you put the time and effort into it so that it's organized and planned and you know exactly what you're doing and that you communicate with them and that you get back to them straight away and don't leave people hanging. And I think people can misjudge quite how long the recruitment process takes. It's a lengthy process if you do it properly, but that makes it more enjoyable for everybody involved if you do plan it that way.
Absolutely. I think the biggest challenge I found, or one of the biggest challenges, was that when you run your own business, obviously you do everything your own way. You've got this way of working, you've got your ideas, and you've got it, and it kind of works, doesn't it? In a very kind of chaotic type of a way, but it does actually work. To then kind of take a section of that, get it out of your head, and give it to somebody else in a process that makes sense is time consuming, but also quite difficult because we all work in different ways, and then being able to adapt that, I think that's the biggest challenge I found. I don't know if I guess that's probably relatively common as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's an element of spending a good amount of time writing down everything that you do every day. Because there's so many things that you forget. And if you can just brainstorm everything that comes up, and then you can try and find, I suppose, groups of things that are similar to each other or fit with each other. And then that starts to create, maybe 3 key areas of the role, like that the person will need to be responsible for or concentrate on. And then within that, you can break down what that looks like. Because as well, you need to be clear on that, because when you bring them in, they're not just going to suddenly start working without any guidance. So you need to be clear on what it is so that you can then talk them through each of those processes your own way, but also, I suppose, having the flexibility to let them do their own version of, if you can.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely, it's so important. At the end of the day, you've chosen to recruit those people. You need to show them the trust. Obviously, you need guidance and help and support. Obviously, that goes without saying, but also give them enough trust to make it their own, because there's a good chance that they might also make it better what they do if you give them the right freedoms to do so. So what my experiences anyway. So I guess very much following on from that point of view is the mistakes that people make when they go recruiting, whether that's from a legal point of view, whether it's from a kind of paperwork point of view, or just generally the whole recruiting process. What other type of mistakes do you generally see people do?
I suppose quite a lot happens within things like job descriptions and job adverts. So it can just be not defining a role very clearly. It can be using a lot of jargon or a lot of words that are specific to your company or your industry, but just make it not very easy to understand from people for people outside of that. And you don't necessarily want people just from your own industry, because you get a diversity of thought and opinions and views if you open yourself up to other industries. So make your job description accessible to everybody so that it's clear what's involved. And also from a diversity point of view, putting things in there like that you're looking for somebody young and full of energy, or somebody who's mature that can manage X, Y, and Z. It's obviously completely the wrong thing from a discrimination point of view, that you shouldn't be picking and choosing what that person looks like. You're just advertising what it is that your role is, and then you should just be opening it up to everybody to apply so you can see who are the best people available. So a lot of people make mistakes like that in job descriptions just because it's quite old school to write them in a certain way and people have got used to it. And it's saying things like 5 years experience as a whatever the job is, which again, you've got a slight element of age discrimination there. If you're saying somebody's got to have a certain number of years experience when that's not necessarily really needed in the job. So it's not about the number of years experience, it's what skills and responsibilities are you looking for within that. Somebody could have been doing a job for 5 years and not have done or achieved what a superstar has done in a year. So don't base it on number of years. Look for what experience do you want within that time and how do you want them to evidence it.
Yeah, because obviously closing your doors, all right. It's to a lot of people if you're asking for 5 years experience in a particular role.
Yeah.
It's you're cutting down the candidate pool. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And also when you move from the job description to the job advert, it's about really making it come alive. It's if you do an advert and it's just your job description plonked into an advert, it just doesn't read overly warm or encouraging or inviting. So you can use the job description for you to get everything down in it that you need and as a basis for discussions around the role and expectations, and maybe to help you define your interview questions and things like that. But in terms of the job advert, you want to almost pick the sections out of that say the key points, but you also want to say, what's it like working for this business? What do we stand for? What are our values? What does it, what does the team feel like to be part of? How big is the team? What does the person look like? You can add a about you section. So you thrive on this, you love doing this, you always enjoy X, Y, and Z, just to make somebody start visualizing themselves in that job and think, hang on, they're talking about me. This is perfect for me. I want to be part of that.
Is that where as well, do you think you could, so if you've got values and things that you're looking for from the person, so kind of putting aside the skill set for a second, but the type of people you want to get involved, that's the opportunity there, isn't it? To use the right things to attract the right people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, I think a lot of people are aware now that behaviors and attitudes are as important, if not more important, than the actual skills and experience. Because somebody with the right mindset and the right attitude can do amazing things if you then just give them the training and the skills behind it. It makes all the difference.
Absolutely. So I'm guessing a conversation you probably have quite a lot, Sally, is people who are thinking about recruiting or the need to recruit, but there's kind of something holding them back. You know, what type of things do you generally hear that puts people off going down the route of putting their first jobs out there?
I think it's just that tipping point, isn't it, where you kind of go, I think I've got too much on, and I think I've got enough work for somebody, but I'm worried about the commitment. And which is fair enough. You don't want to offer a job to somebody if actually you're not going to be able to support them longer term in it. But I think as well, it often comes down to not having the confidence about the process itself. So you put off doing it because you don't actually know what the steps would be. I think if you started thinking, I need somebody, and you've looked into things like the financial side of it, you've looked into your strategy and planning, you've spoken to your accountant about the payroll side of it and what the additional costs are. When you've done all of that, it's just finding out exactly what would be involved in the next step. So like I said, it can be quite a lengthy process start to finish if you do it properly. So you just need to speak to somebody, ideally, or sit down yourself and work out what each of those steps would look like and how you're going to do it, and maybe get some help or somebody to cast an eye over some of the things that you do, like the job description or the adverts and things like that.
Do you think there's quite a lot of examples where people maybe do it too late? Because obviously the reason they do it is because they're too busy, so they need more help, which obviously makes sense. But once you get to that point when you are so busy that you need the help, it makes it difficult to then do all the things you've just mentioned in the last few minutes about doing those right, because you are so busy. So there's an argument, whilst obviously there's a little bit more of a risk, if you want, is heightened a little bit earlier. But if you can identify that things are going in the positive direction, and in 3 months' time you are going to be too busy, doing it there and then rather than waiting 3 months.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There is a fine line, because if you take somebody on too soon and then they're sat twiddling their thumbs, it's not ideal. But like you said, too late is actually almost harder, because if you leave it too late, you've got even less time to train them to do the things that you need them to do. So you really need to build in a couple of months of getting them up to speed, at least a couple of months. So yeah, you need to start planning it as soon as possible, really, because you've got to take the time to have the advert out, do the shortlisting, do the interviews. They might have a notice period at their current job. So if you've made that decision, I would say do it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and do you think there's an argument as well that to get maybe your first employee is someone whose role, you kind of touched on it there, that you don't want them sitting around twiddling their thumbs, but if you're kind of thinking, well, I could do with some help in this or this, I'm not quite sure where to go, maybe a type of role where there's quite a lot of proactive work involved, so they're never at that stage. So it might be a sales type role, it might be like social media management, marketing type role, where there's always something to do, rather than something that's very specific to a series of things getting done. Is a good place to start, maybe, for businesses.
Yeah, and I think as well, look at where you're spending your time, because essentially what they should do longer term is save you money. So if you're spending a number of hours on things like social media, when actually your time would be better spent and better financially from a business point of view as to what you're bringing in with those hours, then you need to look at what's the best work financially to be able to move to somebody else. As well, if you're maybe outsourcing elements of the job and you've got high costs in that, you might want to look at, okay, if we bring that in-house, how much can we reduce the cost, but have somebody dedicated to doing what it is that we want them to do, and somebody who really gets involved in the brand and knows the business so that they can actually do it really effectively. So definitely something like social media and marketing is really good. As well, if there's things you don't like doing, say things like a bit of the sales stuff or the marketing and things like that. If there's things you really don't like doing and they probably take you a long time because you don't enjoy doing it, and you probably put them off quite a lot because you don't enjoy doing it, then actually if you can take somebody on that likes those elements and enjoys those elements and excels in those elements, then absolutely brilliant. So it's about, I suppose, finding where your weak points are and trying to find somebody who can fill those gaps so that they add to what you've got rather than just being another version of you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think adding people who are better than you at certain things is absolutely the key, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how important is it to make the right and good decisions when it comes to recruitment? Now, no one's perfect and everyone will have got this wrong at some point, of course, but how important can it be? And what effects can it be if you don't get it right?
Yeah. It's really difficult. And I think most of the people that don't enjoy recruitment, it tends to be because they've been burned. So maybe they took somebody on and quite early on it didn't work out and they turned out to be completely the wrong person. Or, you know, issues arose within the probationary period and then they don't know what to do about it. And then quite often they'll just keep going as they are, and they'll maybe get in touch a couple of years down the line and say, I need help, this isn't working, this hasn't been working for ages. So with all of those situations, I think it's worth looking at your process, because potentially you didn't ask the right questions at interview if as soon as somebody starts you realize it's not the right fit. And also, if you don't manage that early on and you're not training somebody and you're not giving them clear goals and you're not measuring it in those early months, then letting it go on for another couple of years is unfair on the person and on you, because neither of you are happy with the situation. You know, you've not been clear about expectations. They've probably got a sense that you're not happy, but they don't know what it is that you were actually wanting from them. So yeah, I think it's really important to define those things early on, and that's why I say to put the effort in as well, because the cost of having somebody join the business when you've put all of those hours in, they've potentially quit their job to come and join you. It has an impact on their finances. It has an impact on your finances if you have to start the recruitment process all over again, the time that you might have put into training them. So it really is key to get it right at the beginning. And I always say the first 7 to 10 people that you recruit are the most important people that you will take on. They will define how well your business does. So if you don't put the effort into getting exactly the right people at the beginning, then it's going to have an impact on how well your business does and how quickly it does well. It's not enough just to have somebody that's okay. I think if you're on the cusp and you're just feeling the pressure to take somebody on, don't do it, because it will just store up an issue for down the line. Like you said, if somebody waits until they're so busy and they think, I just need a bum on the seat. That's what people do. I just need somebody in there doing it. But you get them in, they're not the right person. You don't give them the training because you haven't got the time. And then they just don't do great in the job. And then you spend so long managing that side of it and not enjoying the fact that you're managing that side of it, that it just becomes a really negative kind of time consuming process. So I'd say hang on until you find the right person if you possibly can. It will make a difference.
Absolutely. I think a point you made there really resonated with me is obviously I think what's happened in the last year or so, that this kind of idea of the right people together and being in the right environment and all that kind of thing, and like I said, shared values are so important. And I think that you need to bring that out in the recruitment process to make sure that the right people. So whatever type of business you have, you know, if you are going to be working from home for the next 10 years, then that needs to come out and people need to be made aware of that, and then choose the right people. And obviously the opposite of that, if you're in the office, again, you need the same thing, and you need to look at that. I think that's so important now more than ever.
Absolutely. And it's including things like that in the job description and the job advert. If there are key values that mean everything to you, and that your business stands for, and key elements of the brand that really stand out, and it's what your customers know your brand for. That's got to be included right from the beginning, because that's what you want to find in other people. So you want to put it out there so that when they look at it, they say, that's what I believe in too. That's where I want to be.
Absolutely. Now, finally, Sally, I know you're doing something to help people who are in the first kind of look into employing. Do you want to tell a little bit about the things you're doing with the recruitment pack?
Yeah, so I've been really lucky to work with loads of businesses that are doing really well despite everything that's gone on, and it's really great and positive to be involved in all of that. And they're actually, a lot of them, having to recruit for the first time or recruit more staff. So I just find I get a lot of queries from small businesses around a lot of similar things, a lot of what we've been talking about today. And there's only, I mean, it's quite a big subject, and there's only so much you can fit into these kind of, half an hour. If I have an hour's call with somebody, there's still only so much I can do. So I thought, actually, if I can put together all of the information based on all my years of experience in HR and recruiting, and also based on all of the questions that I get asked by people, so that there's a really straightforward, somebody comes at recruitment with very little idea of how to go about it, and they get a full guide, and then all of the templates that they need and checklists, everything they need to follow and plan, so that they can sit down with this one pack and plan out the whole of their recruitment and get all of the help they need, so that they can do it themselves and not spend any money having to go external, and hopefully avoid making any of the mistakes. So yeah, so I put together this recruitment bundle. I've done it for a bit of a crazy price of £10 for the first 2 weeks. So everyone's saying, what the hell have you done it like that for? Because it's full of information. But I just, I do genuinely want to help small businesses. And I thought, I want to put this out there and see what the feedback is and see if it's got everything that people need. So I've put it out for the £10 for 2 weeks. And then hopefully those people that are a bit nervous or need a bit more confidence about recruiting, it gives them everything that they need.
That sounds great, Sally, and fantastic. And obviously, if anyone's interested in finding out more or contacting you, where's the best places to go?
Yeah, I suppose LinkedIn's pretty easy to find me, and I've got a few posts on there at the moment that have got the links to the pack. Also on Instagram, there's a Limelight HR is on Instagram, and there's a link in the bio to the pack. But also, if people want to email me, it's sally@limelight.hr.co.uk.
Fantastic, Sally. And obviously, just in case anyone can't find you for whatever reason, just let us know at Northern Affinity, and we've got all Sally's details.
You've got all my links.
We've got all your links, yes. Well, thank you so much for that, Sally. And it sounds great what we're doing, and I think it's, hopefully it's a positive sign that we've got a lot of people looking at recruiting at the moment.
Yeah.
Both kind of for the first time and more and more. So, fingers crossed that will continue. But yes, thank you so much for your time. If anyone's watching this and they are watching later, because we'll put it on the various social channels and the YouTube channel and things like that, and they've got questions for Sally, please, let us know, and I can pass them on to Sally as well. So yes, thank you so much for your time, Sally, and thank you everyone for watching.
Thanks, Michael.